Diamond P Sports presents championship drag racing from the National Hot Rod Association. The NHRA Winston World Finals.
A beautiful sunny afternoon in Southern California as our Sportsworld cameras have found themselves 50 miles south of Los Angeles at Orange County International Raceway for the NHRA World Finals of Drag Racing. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Gerald, along with our drag racing expert, Steve Evans, and today a tremendous sense of anticipation here at Orange County among thousands of drag racing fans as Shirley Muldowney seeks to wrap up an unprecedented third World Championship in the Top Fuel category. The season, Steve, that Shirley Muldowney has enjoyed has been nothing short of sensational.
Well, Gary, no one has ever had a better one. She's been in 7 final rounds. She's won 4 national event titles. Comes in here with a big points lead. So big, all she needs is to win in round number 1. She is the world champion again. If she loses, however, there is a mathematical chance that a young driver named Mark Oswald in the Candies and Hughes car could win that title. But to do so, he'll have to win the entire event and set both ends of the national record for both speed and elapsed time. And frankly, I don't think he can do it.
Now, we're also going to be covering the Pro Stock competition today, and even though Texan Lee Shepard has clinched a second consecutive world championship and has done it decisively, there has been an unexpected and somewhat surprising challenge from a man out of Georgia who is the fast qualifier for this competition this afternoon.
He has been quite a shock the latter part of this season. Warren Johnson of Norcross, Georgia. The last 5 years, all we've heard about in Pro Stock is Glidden and Shepard, Glidden and Shepard. Well, you better add Warren Johnson to that. He has the performance to beat both of them, but the battle will be on the starting line. They're more experienced drivers, and they will play every game they can think of to psych Johnson out.
So we're looking forward to a tremendous doubleheader today for the NHRA World Finals of Drag Racing.
This blue car with the number 2 on the side is Gary Beck. Gary Beck owns the 4 quickest elapsed times in drag racing history. The all-time quickest coming this year at the U.S. Nationals at 5.48 seconds.
His competition in the far lane is Frank Bradley, a former Winter Nationals champion. Bradley out of Napa, California, turned pro a few years ago. Gary Beck, driving the Larry Minor owned and operated car, is regarded former 2-time national champion. He is the former world champion, was number 2 in the world last season, and regarded by many as one of the premier drivers in the sport.
This is the burnout. It is all important for the Top Fuel dragsters and the funny cars. You see the tires grow as Gary Beck puts the hammer down to heat up these 18-inch wide tires, make them hot, sticky, and also to lay down a hot path of rubber on the racetrack. The car is backed up in stage in those burnout tracks.
They use a puddle of water to start the burnout, something just to break the tires loose. It looks like a crewman working on Frank Bradley's car, but I guess everything's okay because here comes Gary Beck into the staging beams. This is the quickest Top Fuel dragster in the world, the car of Gary Beck.
Hey, David, the front wheel has come off of Frank Bradley's car. The left front wheel rolled right off of the car, Bradley crossing the center line, which automatically disqualifies him. Gary Beck will win the race at 5.69, 245 miles an hour. And here you can see the front wheel is gone.
Just off the car completely, and Frank Bradley bringing the car to a safe stop. As we watch again, you see both cars coming off the starting line. A great start for Bradley. And then all of a sudden, some vibration sets in, and there's the wheel rolling off across the track behind Gary Beck's car.
There was no unusual abuse on the front end whatsoever. It just came off.
Our next pair of cars into the water, and then out with smoking tires.
In the far lane is John Kimball of Compton, California. Here you see John, a trucking company operator in the local Southern California area. He is up against a machine shop owner from the Northwest Portland, Oregon, Big Jim Bernard, who has traveled this entire 12-event circuit this year and has done quite well performance-wise, but just has not quite well enough, David.
His crew chief, Lee Beard, in checking over the car. I tell you, this has been rather surprising car to a lot of people this season because Bernard normally races up in the Northwest, but he decided, let's go on tour this year, and he has surprised a lot of people.
All right, Kimball is away from the mark first, but suddenly we see oil, and then the oil is ignited by the header flames. A brief fire. Kimball is okay and shuts it off. Bernard wins it at 581. 238 miles an hour, but that's what 12 quarts of drag racing oil looks like on fire.
That's right. As the engine expired in John Kimball's car, you could just see the smoke coming out of it. This is Shirley Muldowney, and the results of this next race could have a definite bearing on the world champion title. She's currently leading, but the driver of this car, Mark Oswald, driving for Candies and Hughes, has a mathematical chance of catching her. Mark, taking over the driving chores this season, is matched up here in the first round against Joe Amato from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, a racer that has converted from alcohol-style racing to Top Fuel with great success.
Amato here with the chrome roll bar. Now we'll get a look at the famed Candies and Hughes car. This is the last event ever, they say, for this car. They are retiring from Top Fuel Racing. Got to go to the funny cars. It is the world record holder at 256 miles an hour. That's in the near lane, Mark Oswald.
And it appeared to be a bit of a hole shot for Joe Amato, and he is holding on to the lead and extending it, and what an upset. Joe Amato defeating Mark Oswald in the first round, and that gives the World Championship win to Shirley Muldowney.
Shirley, you sat here waiting to make the first run in the eliminations, and the pressure suddenly goes off. The problem for Mark Oswald, you are now a three-time world champion. It's got to be a tremendous feeling.
I'm very proud. I'm very, very happy. The car had a lot to do with it. You know, Pioneer had a lot to do with it, but the people that build and maintain the car, Ron, Pat, my son John, they are in really a class by themselves.
At this point, everything becomes academic, but can you get the concentration all together and you're ready to go back out here? And if I know Shirley Muldowney, you're going to win this thing this afternoon.
Well, we're going to try. Yes, I have a job to do and have to put everything else out of my mind, and I want to try to do the best job I can because it takes like 100% from everybody, so I can't let them down now.
The lady has had an awesome year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, for Mark Oswald and Candies and Hughes, that outside chance for a world championship has evaporated, Mark.
Yeah, it just didn't have any horsepower at all. Must have lost a cylinder on the starting line or something. It was just real weak.
So Shirley Muldowney is officially the world champion with you going out, and I know you're going to retire this car. Good luck in funny car competition next season.
Thanks a lot. She deserved it, too.
All right, without the Candies and Hughes car, Top Fuel will be missing just a little something special.
Of course, Shirley is the premier Top Fuel dragster driver in the world today. And here at the World Finals, she has just proven it again as she leaves ahead of Dwight Salisbury.
She's running away from him, David. 5.72, 248 miles an hour. The crew in celebration.
Oh, look at the bright pink balloons going up over Orange County International Raceway here in Irvine, California, as the Southern California crowd treated to some exciting racing as Shirley Muldowney climbs out of her car, a first-round victor. She has a shot at this event title. We've taken a look back at how she earned her way to her third world championship, and Steve, you have the story.
Now, along the way, those 4 national event victories, let's take a look at 3 of the most interesting ones. First, in Gainesville, Florida, it was you and Big Daddy in the final round. Don Garlett's an old nemesis for you.
He simply just wasn't up to par. It was a race that he wanted to attend because it was in his backyard, and he hadn't been on the NHRA circuit for a lot of years, and for reasons of his own, some may be good, a lot of them were bad, but he was there nonetheless, and we went up alongside of each other in the final, and it was a lot of tension, and it was a race that he will never forget. I think the race that he will never forget.
The Spring Nationals, the press had a field day with an all-female final. Yourself, Lucille Lee.
It was a historic day, and it was a good day for the women. It was my day. We happened to set low elapsed time the last round, and we won the race.
Okay, let's move along to the U.S. Nationals, the biggest personal victory, I think, for you ever, right? You and Connie Khalid in the final.
Yes, but everyone wants to be in the final at Indy, and, you know, first we thought Gainesville was the greatest. Nothing could top that because of the old man. Then, you know, nothing could top Columbus because of the style we won it, a lot of style. Then we went to Indy, and that would have to be the greatest race of my life. It will always be the biggest thrill I've ever had in racing.
And Khalid didn't give up easily, did he?
No, he deserved everything that he got that day, and if I had blinked, he would have won the race. But as it goes, we happened to come out on top.
And as we speak, there's a motion picture company here at Orange County creating or recording the life story of Shirley Muldowney, a movie on your life.
And they're having a lot of fun doing it, too. They got to know a lot about the sport before they actually went into the project, and that was good for them. And all the racers, everybody involved in the sport has been very cooperative, and I'm very thankful for that. It proves one thing. We have a lot of friends here.
You bet you do. And the name of this film is Heart Like a Wheel. That's appropriate, because this lady's got a lot of heart.
A great retrospective, Steve, and why don't I ever get the kisses? Maybe it's because I sit here in the booth all the time and you get out in the field, and where we are now is back on the starting line as number 2 in the world last season. Gary Beck comes up to race against Terry Kapp. We're into round number 2 racing at the Winston World Finals in Top Fuel Eliminator. Steve, let's find out why Terry Kapp isn't running.
There's nothing more frustrating for a drag racer than to be sitting here in the pits with a broken car when his competition is up there making a burnout, and that's what happened to you and Gary Beck. What happened exactly to you?
Well, Steve, what had happened is first round we raced Doug Kerhulis, and during the wet burnout, when I applied the brakes to stop, we broke this brake caliper off, and it jammed in between the rotor and the wheel.
So then this wedged into the wheel, pulled the motor down and hurt the engine?
It got into the wheel about center track, and it pulled the motor down so hard we detonated a couple of rods, and we blackened the crank. So consequently, we won the race, but we hurt the crank to the point where we'd have to replace the motor, and we just weren't in the position to do that at this point in time.
Gary Beck got a gift, but I understand he offered to loan you a motor to race him with.
You bet. Larry Miner was the first guy over here and says, "What happened?" I says, "We broke a brake." He says, "Well, you fix your motor, I'll get you a new one." He came back with a new brake, and I says, "Hey, we blackened the crank." He says, "I got 2 on the floor. You want one? You come and get it. You put your stuff on top, and we'll race you." I says, "Thanks, but we'll give you the single."
And that is a big break in a highly competitive race such as this one. The Winston World Finals, and Gary Beck here in round number 2 gets an easy go. But will he take it easy, Steve?
I don't think he will, Dave. Lane choice very important. Now, you saw Beck smoke the tires. He's very good at pedaling the car, getting on and off the throttle very quickly. And he still comes up with a tremendous 562 at over 242 miles an hour.
The 562 thus far is the quickest elapsed time in eliminations, and Gary Beck smoked the tires off the starting line. This is Connie Kalita. In round number 2 racing, Kalita comes up against Jody Smart out of San Antonio, Texas.
It was Jody Smart who put away in the first round of competition Oregon's Ernie Hall. Now Jody is in the right-hand lane, Kalita here in the tower lane. Kalita is comfortable behind the controls of a Learjet as he is in a Top Fuel dragster. He owns a flying service in the Detroit, Michigan area.
This year already, Connie Kalita finished runner-up at the U.S. Nationals, but he smokes the tires here, and the motor goes away for Jody Smart, but Smart legs it through and takes the win with a very slow 6:03, but it doesn't matter, he got there first. As we watch again, you see they're fairly closely matched within a few feet, but there the smoke starts, indicating a loss of traction.
And I'm sure Jody Smart kept waiting for Kalita to come around him, unknowing that the tires were just blazing on Kalita's car. And Jody Smart appears to have a little oil running out of his machine as well.
As you saw the motor go away for Jody Smart as he came towards the finish line. This is Jim Bernard, the Northwind car out of Oregon, rolling out of the water and then smoking those tires on the burnout, as every car does in competition.
He will be up against in the far lane Jim Head of Dublin, Ohio. This is Jim Head. He's a graduate engineer, has experimented with computers mounted on this car, David. I don't know if they're there today or not.
And Jim Bernard, as we told you earlier, has been campaigning throughout the year on all of the NHRA national event sites and has done exceptionally well.
Now, Jim Head is the first to pre-stage. You see in the right lane. Now, Bernard with the top yellow light on. Bernard is ready, and Head is ready.
The light goes green, and it is Jim Head streaking away from the starting line. Head with almost 0.2 of a second advantage off the starting line, and folks, that's what's called a hole shot.
But, as you can see, it was Jim Bernard had the power to come from behind at 591, 234 miles an hour. He is going to have to tune up his starting line reflexes for sure.
Our final pair already fired in this second round of racing as the crowd coming to their feet to watch the new Winston World Champion here in the near lane, Shirley Muldowney, square off against Joe Amato. Joe Amato was the man that gave her that world championship, by the way.
He certainly was, and he got a lot of congratulations for it and thanks for it at the far end of the racetrack. It was Amato that put out Mark Oswald, the only driver coming in here to the Winston World Finals that had a shot at Shirley. But now it's the pink car here in the near lane. Shirley Muldowney intently watching that Christmas tree. They're pre-staged. Shirley's ready. Amato's ready. And Shirley leaves too soon.
It's a red light start, and when that red light comes on, it means just what Steve told you. You left too soon. She pulled away from the starting line too quickly, and that gives Joe Amato his second upset win of this event. Let's watch it again. You see right there, Shirley moves way too quickly. She was really dialed into the tree, but somewhere along the way, the timing went away.
Too much anticipation, David. I wonder if she's not still thinking about winning that world title. Unfortunately, what a way to spoil a perfect day. You win the world title, and then...
Anticipation.
But you're such a quick starter. If you don't stay sharp, aren't you going to red light once in a while when you're as quick as you are?
Everybody red lights. That was a terrible red light, okay? None of us are perfect, but hey, none of us are perfect.
Was winning that world championship stage still on your mind a little bit,
no,
distraction?
It really wasn't. It was just, you know, he was a little late staging, and I was a little too fast. That's it.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations on the third title anyway. Shirley Muldowney, a gracious loser here. She said, anticipation.
Winston World Finals as we get set for Pro Stock.
That's right, the Top Fuel car is getting ready for their semifinal round. Now it's Pro Stock, the factory hot rods. These are 7-second, 170-mile-an-hour machines, and here is the world champion, Lee Shepard, the Raymond Morrison Camaro from Arlington, Texas. They clinched the world championship at mid-season. They had amassed so many victories in Winston points.
The competition for Lee Shepard is another Camaro and a very famous name. This is Lee Shepard. He drives for the team of Raymond Morrison out of Arlington, Texas. But his competition moving up from the modified ranks, this is Joe Lapone Jr. driving for the one, the only Bill Grumpy Jenkins. Lapone, formerly a modified racer, now wheeling this 170-mile-an-hour Pro Stocker with a lot of class.
David Rear, one of the car owners, looking on as Lee Shepard prepares to stage the car. He's ready, Lapone is ready, and we've got a beautiful race. Lapone is out first over Raymond Morrison, but here comes the famed Texas horsepower on the big end.
And does it pay off? A 0.04 of a second hole shot by Joe Lapone. He did exactly what he's hired to do, but the horsepower difference was more than made up for as David Rear and Buddy Morrison field another round win for their driver, Lee Shepard.
In the second half of the semifinals here in Pro Stock, we'll see this man, Bob Glidden, the 5-time world champion from Whiteland, Indiana, the Ford EXP, up against the amazing Oldsmobile driver from Norcross, Georgia. This is Warren Johnson, who came on very strong the latter half of the season. It's a good thing Lee Shepard wrapped it up early, David.
Certainly is, because W.J. Warren Johnson knocks on that 180-mile-an-hour door practically every time he goes down the racetrack. They're staging carefully, and a red light start for Glidden. He leaves too quickly. You saw it a moment ago with Shirley, and now Bob Glidden falls prey to the red light.
Glidden just rolled the dice. He had to try to leave on Johnson as Johnson thunders to a 775, 178 miles an hour. Here's Glidden again. You see the tree in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and Glidden moves before the yellow light goes out.
That's a red light, and that's a lose, and this man, Warren Johnson, is moved into the finals to race against the Chevrolet of Raymond Morrison.
Back to Top Fuel, second round. It will be Jody Smart here with the orange helmet in the far lane, up against the world's quickest driver in car, the Larry Minor entry from Hemet, California. Gary Beck at the wheel, the event champion right here at OCIR. A year ago, and it's Beck out first.
Oh, and the world's quickest Top Fuel dragster is proving it once again. Gary Beck streaks across the finish line with a 5.71 second elapsed time. His speed 245 miles an hour, a losing 598, 0.2 of a second, and it looked like a train link between them, Steve.
It certainly did. Up next will be Jim Bernard, the car called the Northwind from Portland, Oregon, up against Joe Amato in the right-hand lane.
Joe Amato has had the role of the spoiler thus far at this event. Let's see how far he can go. Steve's with Gary Beck right now.
Well, the man who owns the 4 quickest elapsed times in drag racing history, Gary Beck, goes into his second final round here at the World Finals. You won it last year, maybe again.
Yeah, it's good. The car's shaking a little bit out there, but it's getting down the track. So we're glad to be here. It's, you know, close to home, a couple miles from hometown. Home city for Larry Minor. We're glad to be here.
This is present tense, and this is current time. Jim Bernard against Joe Amato.
And Jim Bernard has had to come from behind the previous 2 rounds, and he's going to have to do it again. A big hole shot for Joe Amato. Amato's going to win. No, he's not going to win.
Oh, what a close race, and it looked like in just the last few inches, Jim Bernard streaked past Joe Amato to take the victory. Joe Amato, as we said earlier, cast in the role of the spoiler. He does a tremendous driving job here. His car responds perfectly. He's got 0.06 of a second hole shot on Jim Bernard. But watch now as Bernard comes on with a horsepower at the finish line, 250 miles an hour to pass Joe Amato and take the victory.
Jim Bernard mumbling to me that he's got to get better, talking about leaving the starting line. He was 0.06 of a second late off the line as compared to Amato's reaction time, but that may have been the fastest ride of Jim Bernard's life, 250 miles an hour.
250 miles an hour? Looking good, feeling good. Now if I wake up, we'll be doing all right.
Well, I think you amazed Amato by driving around him. He had a pretty good lead.
I amazed myself. I didn't think I was going to catch him, but I did.
Now with the finals of Pro Stock.
Oh, the crowd is on their feet for this one. It's Chevrolet on the far lane, Lee Shepard, Oldsmobile in the tower lane, the national record holder for speed, Warren Johnson. The two have met, I believe, 3 times this year, and Johnson has won twice. They stage very, very carefully. These are 4-speed transmission cars. It is Warren Johnson out first. It is Warren Johnson out ahead of Lee Shepard. It is Johnson driving away at 7.78 seconds, 176 miles an hour, to a fairly close 786 at 177.
So as you can see, Steve, coming into the finish line, speed traps, and then across the finish line by a little over a car length.
Already out of the car is the event winner, Warren Johnson. This is his 3rd big title this year, and I believe it was Lee Shepard in all 3 finals.
Right, I've raced Lee 4 times and beat him 3 times in the finals.
All right, now the reaction times were identical, so it was a race of power.
Well, that's what I said before. That's what we're out here, get the crowd as good a race as we possibly can, and I don't think there was any, as you referred to it before, psychological advantage on a starting line or anything like that. And I think everything came out the way I wanted it anyway.
Well, congratulations from Sportsworld, the event winner and maybe soon to be a world champion in 1983.
We move into Top Fuel Eliminator. The winner of this will also take home the event title. Jim Bernard against Gary Beck.
Jim Bernard's first ever final round appearance in major NHRA competition. Gary Beck, who at this point seems to be unstoppable, but if you look back over the season, Beck seems to always have some kind of problem. Bloody luck has not been with the Larry Minor crew this year. It has certainly been there as far as elapsed times are concerned, but they have not won a race all year, looking to make it 2 in a row here at the World Finals.
Bernard is in the far lane, and here's Gary Beck smoking the tires, and it is Bernard streaking ahead across the finish line. Jim Bernard, exploding an engine, takes the win. His elapsed time only 5.92 seconds, but as Jim Bernard would tell you, who cares? The point is, he got there before Gary Beck, and that means Jim Bernard is the NHRA Winston World Finals champion. Steve?
Bernard trying to get his suit off now. All I can see are happy eyes. This man has been racing for 15 years, waiting for this moment. And anytime you're up against Gary Beck, there's always the chance that he may make too much power. And Jim, I think that's what happened. He smoked the tires.
He smoked the tires. I didn't know what happened. He was there for a second and then gone. I know I had my hands full. She went to the right, and then she went, and it shook, did everything it wasn't supposed to do. I didn't know how I won the race, but we did it. Here we are.
You certainly did. Your crew chief, Lee Beard, doing a super job. And
he did a super job. My whole crew are the people that are responsible for this car and this race.
Had you lost this round, you'd have still been a happy man. Nobody had a better time drag racing today than Jim Bernard.
That's right. Even second place is good as winning. Especially this whole year has been a good year for us, but we haven't won the big one. We just did. Look out for tonight, folks. She's a party.
Last year, David, here at the Winston World Finals, we saw 3 of the most terrifying fires in drag racing history. First, it was Gary Densham to light up, flames literally surrounding the car and melting the fiberglass body. Then it was Texan Billy Meyer on fire at the finish line, the parachutes burning off the car, the fiberglass starting to melt around Billy Meyer. then four-time world champion Don the Snake Prudhomme. The most terrifying ride of his 20-year drag racing career. Hard to believe that all three of these men walked away from these fires and are competing here today in round one of funny car competition.
Not only are all three competing in the first round, but two of these racers, Billy Meyer and Don Prudhomme, are in the thick of the hunt for that Winston World Champion title here at the World Final.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Gerald, along with our drag racing expert, Steve Evans. And today we talk about a confrontation involving three men capping an unprecedented year in funny car competition. It has been an all-out assault on the record book. And three men in that title showdown, a Canadian, a Texan, and also a man from Southern California who 4 times in the past has been world champion.
Well, Gary, this is really a war for this funny car world title. Leading the points coming in is Frank Hawley. His first year of serious drag racing in a professional car. He, of course, is from Canada, a very low-budget operation, but won more events this year than anybody else. In the number 2 slot is Billy Meyer, a big-buck, highly sponsored operation throwing 2 cars into this field. And lurking in the background in the number 3 spot is Don the Snake Prudhomme. He's the low qualifier here. If Hawley and Meyer should go out early in the competition, Prudhomme could win this event and possibly his 5th world title.
But they'll have to contend with Frank Hawley, who has the points lead. Here's round 1 action. This is the Chief Auto 711 car in the near lane with Trip Shoemaker, Phoenix, Arizona at the wheel.
And Tim Gross in the Datsun 280 ZX bodied car. Gross transplanted from California to Michigan and now back in California again. For Trip Shoemake, he is driving a team car. There's actually 2 of these cars, one driven by Billy Meyer, the other by Trip Shoemake.
Trip Shoemake in the Ford EXP bodied car that is actually Billy Meyer's new car for '83. Meyer is using Trip Shoemake as a blocker here, hoping that Trip can get to Frank Hawley and Don Prudhomme early in the going.
And if so, that will allow Billy Meyer to move into that Winston World Champion title. It gets rather complex because there are 4 drivers who are capable of winning it at this event.
Trip Shoemake here in the tower lane, and Trip Shoemake is away first. Trip Shoemake with far more power than that of the Datsun car of Tim Gross. It is Trip Shoemake getting there at a beautiful 583, 232 miles an hour. So the little Retta driver from Phoenix, Arizona, so far doing the job he was hired to do by Billy Meyer.
And that is winning the race and advancing into the next round. Eventually, he will have to match up against one of those drivers that is in the chase for the Winston World Champion title.
Beautiful funny car here in the near lane as the 82 Camaro body goes down over the chassis of Bruce Iverson. Iverson's from Southern California. He is up against Salt Lake City's Garth Whittison, and both of these are really kind of unknown quantities. They seldom really qualify for national event competition. Look at this beautiful Camaro, David.
This low-slung car surprised everybody by running in the 5-second bracket in qualifying and moved up into the upper half of the field. In other words, cars 1 through 8. And shuffled the field around a little bit right at the very end of qualifying, and that surprised everybody.
The funny cars accomplishing their tires, smoking, ground, pound, and burnouts. One thing that has made them so popular with fans all over the country. They use essentially the same kind of nitro-burning engine as we saw in Top Fuel, except here the engine is in front of the driver. They're a much shorter wheelbase, plus they have the fiberglass replica bodies draped over the sophisticated chassis. You're looking at $60,000, $70,000 worth of rolling drag racing stock here.
Garth Whittison driving the Battlestar car. There can't be that many funny cars in the state of Utah, Steve.
I believe he's the only competitive one, David.
Well, he is very competitive because he just left Bruce Iverson sitting in the blower, comes apart. Something comes off of the car of Bruce Iverson, and Garth Whittison wins the race. Whittison coming in with an elapsed time of 6:43, not competitive by any stretch of the imagination.
Here is the car that has the lead for the World Championship. The Chi-Town Hustler. Frank Hawley for Pat Minnick out of Chicago, Illinois. Garth Whittison being pushed off the racetrack down at the far end. But Frank Hawley, who has won, 3 national events so far this year?
He'll be racing against Al Segrini. Segrini, winner of the Winter Nationals, the first race of the year, has got his work cut out for him because Frank Hawley has been on a roll all season long. Everybody said, this is basically an exhibition car. They can't make it through a whole series and season of competitive racing, but look at this.
Yeah, everybody said they don't have enough money, enough parts. Al Segrini, now that's one of those $250,000 18-wheelers. Segrini over in the far lane. The Chi-Town car has an old ramp-back truck with about 500,000 miles on it, but the young Canadian driver, Frank Hawley, has done a tremendous job. Austin Coyle setting his driver here in the near lane. They feel they've won the World Championship, but they're just not counting their chickens quite yet.
He pulls away from Al Segrini. Frank Hawley increases his lead in the middle of the course. Segrini's engine goes away, and Frank Hawley wins it.
At 5.93 seconds, 241 miles an hour, Frank Hawley picks up some badly needed points to hold off Billy Meyer and the Snake.
The eliminations in a drag racing program are in single elimination style, like a basketball tournament. If you win, you advance to the next round. And here's the man everybody's been waiting to see, the quickest funny car in the history of drag racing, Don the Snake Prudhomme in the near lane.
Earlier in our telecast, you saw the Snake melt the Pepsi Challenger from last year. Here is Frank Hawley coming out of the car. He was very nervous young man going into round one. Now maybe some of those butterflies will go away as the helmet of the mask comes off.
Our Diamond B camera is right on top of the action for Don Prudhomme. He had the most incredible time of his life at Indianapolis at the U.S. Nationals with a 5:63 elapsed time. He is racing the Pisano car. Joe Pisano is the car owner. Craig Epperly, the driver, here at the World Finals out of Downey. And look at Prudhomme go.
Oh, Prudhomme is laying one down as getting very close to the rail was Craig Epperly. It is Don Prudhomme at a 6.03, 241 miles an hour. Prudhomme picks up another 200 valuable Winston points. He's still got a backdoor shot at this world title.
And for Prudhomme, I'm sure he's not going to be happy with the performance. The car left the starting line very well, but it certainly didn't perform in the middle of the course as he expected it to do.
This is Raymond Beadle, who at the close of this event will have to scrape that number one off the side of his famous Blue Max and give it to somebody else, either Hawley, Billy Meyer, or Prudhomme. He's up against Gary Bergen, who was in the final round for the event title here a year ago when Big Jim Dunn won that event. Now, Raymond Beadle, the three-time national champion, is not going to make it four in the English Leather Ford EXP. Had a lot of problems. He flipped the car early in the year, then burned one to the ground, and they never quite caught up again.
Raymond coming back into the performance style, though, that he has been accustomed to in the last couple of races and has moved very well in qualifying here at the World Finals. For Gary Bergen, he was a finalist at the U.S. Nationals in the finals and, in fact, won that event a few years ago and would love to shut down Raymond Beadle right now. Boy, this is a close race. At the finish line, it is the Blue Max of Raymond Beadle winning it with a 6.05 second elapsed time. Bergen's losing time, a 6:11.
Both of them at about 238 miles an hour. Actually, Bergen at 237. So Bergen was in that one all the way against the Blue Max.
But for Raymond Beadle, a chance to move up another round and possibly take home the event title here at Orange County International Raceway.
As we continue with round one of funny car action, here's a man that's got them all shaking their heads. David, this is Ken Vaney of Wadsworth, Ohio. His first year of nitro funny car racing. After many years with an alcohol car, he has set the national speed record at 254 miles an hour. He'll be up against the black car in the far lane, Little John Lombardo, who's a terror here all summer long at OCIR.
Out of North Hollywood, California, Lombardo is one of those 5-second funny cars that doesn't travel a whole lot. He stays around home, and there's some problems on the starting line. Look at this. They're backing Ken Vaney up. They're checking something, and he says, okay, bring it up and stage again. That's Starter Buster Couch directing the action. The starting system itself, electronically controlled and operated. All the starter does is throw a switch. A great lead for Lombardo, but boy, look at the horsepower of Ken Vaney as he just blows by Little John to a 6:08 elapsed time, 238 miles an hour.
Little John Lombardo at a 6:41. It's a good thing Vinny had all that power because he was very late up the starting line. He's only made 15 runs in a nitro-burning funny car. Not quite comfortable yet.
Certainly the talk of the nitro-burning contingent is Ken Vaney, and I know some of the other racers are starting to run Ken Vaney components and complete engines.
Back at the starting line. As funny car competition continues, this is Billy Meyer. We saw his teammate earlier, Trip Shoemake, survive round one. Meyer can only hope that he will do the same. As Frank Hawley is still in the program. Billy Meyer trying to drive around Hawley in the point standings with this, the Pontiac-bodied 711 Chief Auto car. Meyer from Waco, Texas, started funny car racing at 16.
Our defending champion here at the Winston World Finals, this is Big Jim Dunn out of Long Beach, California. A fireman, as noted on the West Coast for driving practically anything. The only man ever to win a national event driving a rear-engine funny car. That came years ago, and today I don't think it's going to be his day as Billy Meyer pulls ahead and wins it, defeating Jim Dunn in this first round of action with a 5:99 elapsed time.
And Big Jim Dunn, always there as he was this time, 6.05. Even though Dunn has very little to work with, he was still right there all the time. If Meyer made a mistake, he'd have got him.
Kenny Bernstein and our final pair of funny cars in the first round of action against the man you saw that burned it down a year ago, Gary Dencham. Here's Billy Meyer getting out of his car. He also still in the chase for that Winston World Championship title. Kenny Bernstein actually not in the hunt for the points championship, but he'd sure love to win the event title. Here's the teacher's pet car. He is a teacher, by the way. Teaches school, Gary Dencham.
And this was the driver we showed you earlier in the first one of those 3 fires. He back with a beautiful car. Now, Bernstein is on a roll right now. He won the Golden Gate Nationals just a few weeks ago in the San Francisco Bay Area after a ragged early season. Bernstein is back with tremendous performance.
Bernstein and Dencham, and look at Bernstein. He is not to be headed in any way in this race as Bernstein crosses the finish line first.
With low ET of eliminations at 5.93 seconds, 246 miles an hour, to Gary Dencham's very game 6:15, 233.
So that concludes our first round of racing in Funny Car Eliminator, and we still have those 4 competitors in the thick of it for the Winston World Champion title as Frank Hawley leads in the points. Billy Meyer doing his best to try to catch him. Of course, Don Prudhomme is still in the action, and they've got Trip Shoemake in as a blocker, put in the number 2 car by Billy Meyer. And in fact, here's Trip Shoemake.
Indeed it is. Shoemake here in the near lane. Just a couple of weeks ago, his phone rang in Phoenix, Arizona. It was Billy Meyer on the other end of the line saying, "Would you like to drive my car for 2 events?" He didn't hesitate. Trip Shoemake, a former Southern Nationals champion. Now, opposite Shoemake, the consummate funny car racer, the 4-time world champion, Don the Snake Prudhomme, Granada Hills, California. Maybe the best-looking funny car ever built, the Pepsi Challenger Pontiac Firebird.
Well, Meyer brought an extra car in here to block, and you raced that car next round. Tell us about racing Trip Shoemake.
Well, it's going to be an interesting race, obviously. You know, he's running good. I think we can take care of him, though. I really do. You know, we're going to be
This
fine.
car with a 563 to its credit at the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park has astounded everyone with its performance, but it has been inconsistent. He can run good, but he hurts the car. When he doesn't run so good, the car doesn't get hurt, but he sometimes gets beat. What can happen here? Trip Shoemake is trying to get him, and the engine explodes in Don Prudhomme's car. He's all over his lane, and Trip Shoemake comes home the winner and advances to the semifinals.
As Prudhomme was skating around in his own oil, it was Shoemake at a 6:48, 231 miles an hour. Fortunately for Prudhomme, that happened early on the course, or he could have had a repeat of last year's fire. Here, watch Prudhomme now in the right-hand lane. Probably a connecting rod broke. That's the only thing that will usually put that much oil instantaneously out on the racetrack. Prudhomme doing a very alert job of driving. A lesser driver might have spun that car or even made contact with the rail, David.
Trip Shoemake out of his car, taking off the protective fire gloves, his helmet, and his face mask. He's got to be happy. As Steve told you, it was just a couple of weeks ago he was in retirement. They weren't doing much of anything, and now he is out racing and has worked his way to the semifinals here at the Winston World Finals at Orange County International Raceway.
Had an oil leak or blew an engine, something.
Well, that's too bad. He's won a lot of times. It's my turn today.
Okay, but now the concern has to go to the boss, who's back up waiting to race.
Right now, by winning that race, I got at least guaranteed him second place. And then right now, Hawley and Beadle run, and there's a chance he could win the race, but that's kind of in the cards. What can you say now? I'm out of breath.
I can say good job.
Yeah.
And now he is out racing and has worked his way to the semifinals here at the Winston World Finals at Orange County International Raceway. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and this is the man that is leading the points chase for the Winston World Championship.
You bet it is. It's Frank Hawley. And this is the man who has worn that number 1 for 3 consecutive years. Between he and Prudhomme, it's been 7 years since we've seen anybody else in the Winston winner's circle. Frank Hawley, a likable young guy from London, Ontario, Canada, drove in the alcohol ranks with his own car, actually pleaded and begged for a chance to drive in the big class. He got it. Raymond Beadle, the mustachio driver from Dallas, Texas. He is probably the best financed and maybe the hardest working of all the funny car drivers.
Well, he's got his work cut out for him as Frank Hawley is pulling a big lead. And Frank Hawley, by over a car length, defeats Raymond Beadle, and they continue their march to the Winston World Champion title. Frank Hawley, elapsed time 5:99, his speed over 238 miles an hour, as Billy Meyer showing the pressure, showing the intensity that goes through these drivers' minds as he gets ready to fire up for his next race. Steve takes a look at a comparison between Billy Meyer and Frank Hawley.
This is the funny car racing operation of Texan Billy Meyer, as impressive as you'll find in this sport. Not one race car, but two, both carrying the logos of many sponsors, affiliated with actor Burt Reynolds and director Hal Needham. The cars are transported in a beautiful 18-wheeler worth at least $250,000. It is jammed to the rafters with spare parts and equipment. Meyer will oversee today a crew of 10 men. He'll make the decisions as to how to tune the engines, but they'll do the heavy work. Talk about your contrast. This is the racing operation of the Chi-Town Hustler team, Frank Hawley's car. An old 1965 truck with 500,000 miles on it. There's no room for many spare parts, but that doesn't matter because they couldn't afford them anyway. What these guys have is talent. Car owner Austin Coyle is as knowledgeable an engine builder and tuner as there is. Hawley, the young Canadian, is not only a fine driver, but is expected to get down on his back between rounds, oil dripping in his base, and service the bearings, the bottom end of the engine.
Billy Meyer, after his crew has put it all together, comes out of the water. He has got to defeat Ken Veeney in this round. Billy Meyer trying to catch Frank Hawley. He is the U.S. Nationals champion, the biggest win of his career for Ken Veeney at over 254 miles an hour, the national record holder, the talk of the sport. Veeney with problems out on the track, and it appears something they can't get it to back up. Steve?
David, apparently the reverser transmission has gone out in Veeney's car, and the rules require that you back these cars up under their own power. You can't just turn it around or you would cross the center line and be out. It's a gift for Billy Meyer.
Oh, what a break for Billy. All he's got to do is keep it between the center line and the guardrails. Don't touch either one, and he did that with ease as Billy Meyer ran 6.09 on a single at over 238 miles an hour. He now moves into the semifinals. Boy, the pressure is on in this world champion chase. The 2,500 horsepower engine of Kenny Bernstein shaking itself to life as crew chief Dale Armstrong turning on the nitrous oxide bottle. A lot of work goes into these cars, and to get two ready for the same round of racing has got to be tough. Steve?
So Billy Meyer picking up a gift from Ken Veeney, who apparently was having transmission problems and could not back that car up. Billy, a 6:09.
Yeah, it's just robbing cylinders. We're not on no record pace. We're in trouble with Frank winning. As long as the race goes, we got two cars to the semifinal.
Well, Billy said he's not on a record pace. However, we saw last year when Gary Beck ran the quickest time in drag racing history. If it cools off here later today, maybe.
This track gets very, very good later in the evening as it cools down. Our biggest problem is our motor. We may have to swap motors with the other car. It seems to be running a lot better, but I needed them to mess up, and apparently they're not. So all I can thank is Tripp for taking out Perdomo, because that at least guaranteed a second so far. So now all we have to do is try to go up.
Right, Billy Meyer, who's got two cars to prepare for the semifinals.
We're into the last race of this quarterfinal round, and it is Garth Whittison out of Utah with the Battlestar car, and I don't think anybody expected to see him here against Kenny Bernstein, the recent winner of the Golden Gate Nationals.
I'll tell you what, Kenny Bernstein, David, as we look over the reaction times that are furnished to us by the NHRA officials, has been super sharp. This is Garth Whittison, the Battlestar. He may have to gamble with a red line here. He's about 2/10 off the pace.
This is Kenny Bernstein, and he's not taking any gamble. He's on a roll right now, and he knows exactly his capabilities and those of his car. His crew chief, Dale Armstrong, has it prepared very well. As we watch him, Kenny into the pre-stage light first in the left-hand lane. Then Garth Whittison pre-stages in the right lane. They're both sitting and waiting. Garth coming into the staging. There's Bernstein, and it's a green light for both cars as they streak away from the starting line.
Again, Bernstein was away first, and look at the power on the top end of the quarter mile. It is Bernstein at 6.08, 237 miles an hour. Garth Whittison just didn't have quite enough in this league at 6:37, 205 miles an hour, but he did qualify, and there's a dozen that can't say that.
That's for sure, and he made it all the way to the second round of the 16-car field here at the Winston World Finals. We're located in Southern California, about 60 miles south of downtown Los Angeles at Orange County International Raceway, and the junction of the freeways, and one of the most popular racetracks in all of the United States, the home of the NHRA Winston World Finals. As we get ready to go into the semifinals, let's go again to Steve with Billy Meyer.
Normally in a semifinal round when you're involved, you don't care about the other run particularly. You're just concentrating on your own. Here, both of them are almost equally important to you.
Very much so, because Tripp's doing an excellent job, and I would like to see it for Hal and for 7-Eleven, and for me and my banker and everybody, us both in the final.
Well, I'm sure Billy Meyer would love to see that, but this is one man he doesn't want to see in the finals, and that is Frank Hawley. Here is Tripp Shoemake, the Team B car. They actually call them the A team and the B team, Steve.
Oh, that's right. Billy calls this the Team B, but they have flown in mechanics from all over the country. Grover Rogers from Texas, Donnie Couch from California, to put together a nucleus with which to get this car ready. Now, here in the tower lane, only one man really works on the car as far as tuning it, and that is the owner, Austin Coyle, we just saw backing up the car. Tripp Shoemake for Billy Meyer. Donnie Couch lining up. Tripp Shoemake. It says Billy Meyer. Don't believe it. It's Shoemake. Here in the near lane, the Bucks Down Chi-Town Hustler. The most amazing story of this 1982 Winston season.
Can he make it pay off? All the effort and all the money that Billy Meyer has spent to get Tripp Shoemake into a blocking position. This is the car he has got to block, and Tripp Shoemake is pulling away in the middle of the course, and Tripp Shoemake defeats the points leader in the Winston World Championship points chase. Tripp Shoemake, 6.03. Frank Hawley, a 6.18.
Now it is Tripp Shoemake leaving first by about 2/100ths of a second, and he never looked back. I believe the Chi-Town crew were running a little conservative, didn't want to take a chance of smoking the tires, maybe beat themselves.
Out of the car comes Tripp Shoemake. He is in the finals. He goes over to shake the hand of Frank Hawley, and Billy Meyer is sitting back waiting. He knows that he's got the shot at it now, because Tripp Shoemake has done exactly what he was hired to do, driving that Ford EXP-bodied car to victory over Frank Hawley.
Now it's nervous time for Frank Hawley. Even though he's out of competition, he may still have that world championship. If indeed Billy Meyer can be defeated in this round. If Meyer wins here and wins the race, he could mathematically pick the pocket of Frank Hawley and the popular Chi-Town gang. Kenny Bernstein here in the near lane, a fellow Texan, but right now he'll show no quarter whatsoever. Bernstein, who won, as I mentioned earlier, the Golden Gate Nationals a couple of weeks ago, finished number 3 in the world last year. This is going to be a Texas shootout.
It sure is, and Billy Meyer is coming hot off of that big win at the U.S. Nationals, the most prestigious of them all, certainly the quickest funny car race and qualifying session ever in the history of drag racing. For Bernstein and Meyer, oh, they've chased the whole year. Here's Frank Hawley. Look at him. He can't even stand to watch what's going on up on the starting line, but he's got to turn around and come back, Steve.
Hawley's at the end of the racetrack waiting for the winner, and he hopes that it is not this car, that it's this car, Kenny Bernstein and the Budweiser King. If Bernstein can win here, Frank Hawley will officially fulfill his dream of being the Winston Funny Car World Champion.
A great start for both drivers from this vantage point. It looks like Bernstein, but here comes the Firebird, and who won it? It's hard to say. Oh, the joy on the crew of Frank Hawley tells you Kenny Bernstein was the winner. Steve, they're a happy bunch.
Austin Coyle, his Lady Barbara, Frank Hawley and the crew. A 5-year-old race car. Frank Hawley, the crew of the Chi-Town car, going over to congratulate Kenny Bernstein. 2 weeks ago, at the Golden Gate Nationals, it was Bernstein that defeated Frank Hawley with a hole shot. He wasn't congratulating him then. A wonderful moment for the Chi-Town crew.
An incredibly close race from start to finish. Identical elapsed times, 6.02 seconds. Identical top speeds, 244.54 miles an hour. And at the finish line, it was just a matter of inches as Kenny Bernstein won it. Steve had a chance to ask Kenny how close it really was.
So Kenny Bernstein has made himself a very happy man. This will be his second final in just 2 weeks. And you've made Frank Hawley smile like he never has.
Well, I'm glad for Frank. They deserved it. They ran hard, but don't take anything away from my friend from Waco, Billy Meyer. He fought them all the way, and he's done a good job, too. But that's the closest race I've ever had in my life, Steve. I really thought he won. I honestly did. And I never felt that before.
You left first, again, as you did on Hawley 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm taking the right vitamins, I guess.
Well, the right vitamins are sure paying off for Kenny Bernstein today. He is in the finals against Trip Shoemake in the team car of Billy Meyer. And some tremendously close racing has marked this funny cars show, and Trip Shoemake has been one of the real stories. A couple of weeks ago, he was in retirement. Steve talked with his wife, Susie.
Well, we just gave up on drag racing. You know, we quit. He'd quit in June. We bought three-wheel motorcycles. We were out camping during Labor Day weekend. I mean, we're just having a ball. And when Billy Meyer called that morning, we just, you know, that's the best kind of surprises. It's kind of like Christmas morning for us, you know. And this last night was like Christmas Eve for us. You know, you never know what to expect.
For Billy Meyer and his wife, Deborah, of Waco, Texas, this is the first quiet moment that you folks have had all day long, all weekend long.
Yeah, I think we're going to stay down here for a while. It's definitely quieter down here. I never saw him, because I wasn't looking, but normally I can see him out of the corner of my eye. He must have just been barely ahead of me. But down here, when the camera crew goes to the other car, you know something happened.
Yeah, we hate to do that. We hate to be the one like Deborah. You got to be proud of your man. He fought hard all year.
It's been a wonderful year. I'd say the best of our lives. Championship was really close, but there's always another year.
And a new baby boy just a couple of months ago. But now you've got work to do. You've still got Trip trying to win this race.
Yeah, I got to get even with Kenny somehow.
Kenny Bernstein backing into his own tracks. Trip Shoemake in the team car of Billy Meyer alongside of him in the far lane. Bernstein aiming for his second consecutive win. Earlier, he had some problems back in the pits, and Steve was there.
I was there, David. An alert crewman found a burned crankshaft in the engine, rendering that engine useless. They have now plugged in a spare power plant. They at least had a chance to warm the engine up before bringing it to the line, but it is still going to be an unknown quantity going into this final.
We talked about the amount of work that goes on, and there's a perfect example. They had the car running, they changed engines, and still made it to the finals against Trip Shoemake in the Ford EXP of Billy Meyer. Kenny Bernstein will be in the near lane.
Trip Shoemake in the far lane. He has one national event win to his credit. Bernstein has won two over his years of drag racing.
The LN7 of Kenny Bernstein with a close win in the previous round, and he's falling behind here as it is Trip Shoemake pulling ahead, and what a storybook finish it is. Trip Shoemake wins it.
He wins it wire to wire. His crew has gone nuts. It's the Team B car collecting the honors. Susie Shoemake, what a smile. Maybe a tear or two to go along with it. It's Trip Shoemake at 586, 243 miles an hour, as Bernstein's spare engine, well, they just didn't have a time to sort it out. The clutch was maybe a little off in the car, and we get another look at it.
As you can see, Trip Shoemake had no problem, because as he left the starting line, Kenny Bernstein started falling behind.
Out of this car will come one of the happiest, bounciest, most animated drivers you will ever see. His wife calls him 240 Shorty, hired in by Billy Meyer as a blocker. He did that indeed so well that he himself has become the event winner, his second ever NHRA national title, and our congratulations to Trip Shoemake.
Oh, man, I tell you.
It's hard work.
I tell you, I've been worn out. You know, my wife and I, every Sunday before we race, we have a prayer together in our trailer. And today I said, Lord, just let me do the best I can do. Whether I win or lose, just be proud of what I did. And man, how can you ask for more?
583.
That would have did that again? I already bracket one. They pay good money in that deal.
So, Trip Shoemake, you've done Billy Meyer proud, yourself proud today.
What kind of speed did it go?
Who cares?
I do.
And so a terrific afternoon of funny car competition comes to a close. The World Championship going to the Canadian Frank Hawley, but a stunning World Finals victory to Trip Shoemake. A great afternoon here at Orange County International Raceway. On behalf of Steve Evans, I'm Gary Gerald saying we hope you've enjoyed this show as we say so long from Southern California.